Wow, 2017 sure was a year, but I bet you want to know all about the movies of 2018. Well, you're in luck, because I already know how good they all are. No, I haven't seen any of them, and in some cases I've not even seen the films that these are sequels of, but I still know if they're good or not. Here we go. The first 3 months of 2018. Disclaimer: judging a film purely on its Rotten Tomatoes score is a flawed way of analysing a movie's worth. However, it is the easiest way for me to give a value to these films, so it's what I'll be using for this. Don't judge a film by its Rotten Tomatoes score. If you're going to see it, go see it anyway. And I hope you enjoy. Releasing January the 26th is Maze Runner The Death Cure. It's the third one, and the other two were terrible. I mean, like, they weren't really terrible. The first one was bad, and then the second one was worse. I will say, I've read the books of these, and I quite enjoyed number 1. Number 2 was stupid, and number 3 was just like the least satisfying conclusion to a series ever, maybe. And it was really confusing and boring. So it's going to translate really well into the film, where it doesn't have as much time to explain as the book. The first one received a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, the second one a 47%. I'm predicting that number 3 will get 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. Then everyone can forget about this film series forever. The lead actor, Dylan O'Brien, can go on to do other things, and we'll only remember these movies as the movies that kickstarted his career. They'll never be mentioned again. Releasing February the 9th, it's 50 Shades Freed. It's gonna be terrible. The same day, February the 9th, is the Peter Rabbit movie. I've seen the trailer for this, and it looks really bad. There is no reason for this movie to exist, especially in the form that it currently does, because Peter Rabbit seems like a huge asshole. The last thing that we wanted was an edgy reboot of beloved children's character Peter Rabbit. The movie's not going to review terribly. It's going to get around 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. People are going to hate it because it's not the character at all. James Corden is in too many things, and he must be stopped. On February 16th, we see the release of the millionth Marvel movie, Black Panther. I am feeling a bit of superhero fatigue, but can't deny that this film's probably going to be one of the better Marvel movies. Black Panther was one of the stronger characters when he turned up in Captain America Civil War, and directing this movie is Ryan Coogler, whose directorial debut was Creed, which was great, and it got Sylvester Stallone an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. And this film's got a pretty great cast as well, so for a Marvel movie, this is probably something special. Creed got 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, Civil War 91. I think this is going to be somewhere between the two, 93%. It's going to be good, probably around Winter Soldier level of goodness for a Marvel movie. Coming out on the same day is the new Aardman animation, Early Man, and it's gonna be great because Aardman, everything they do is amazing. Nick Park is back directing this for his first feature since Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which I love, and it is endlessly quotable, so go to see that if you haven't already. Everything Aardman does is extremely charming, and most of it is genius. Curse of the Were-Rabbit, 95% Rotten Tomatoes. Chicken Run, another Nick Park directed one by Aardman, 97%. And the last Aardman animation that came out was Shaun the Sheep, which got 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm predicting 96%. It's definitely going to get a Best Animated Picture nomination, where it'll be going up against Incredibles 2, Wreck-It Ralph 2, and Isle of Dogs, and then one more wild card. Actually, Wreck-It Ralph 2 probably won't get in there. Someone else, though. It might have a chance. Going into March, we have, coming out on the 2nd, Red Sparrow, which I've put on here because Jennifer Lawrence is in it, and she's, like, one of the biggest actresses around at the moment. It's an adaptation of a book, and the guy directing it, Francis Lawrence, who is in no way related to Jennifer Lawrence. He directed The Hunger Games: Catching Fire, which I really enjoyed, but unfortunately, he also directed Hunger Games: Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, which I thought really sucked. Francis Lawrence's other films that he's directed are also book adaptations. His other movies are Constantine, I Am Legend, Water for Elephants, and then the 3 Hunger Games movies I just mentioned. So they've got Rotten Tomato scores 46, 70, 60, 89, 66, 70. I predict This film will get 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. It'll be fine, some people like it, everyone will forget it exists, and it'll turn up as a pointless answer in the last round of Pointless in 10 years' time. Also releasing on the 2nd is Death Wish, which is a remake of Death Wish, the series starring Charles Bronson that is all about his friends and family being murdered, hence giving him free rein to murder any character with even a loose connection to those that killed his family. This time, it's Bruce Willis, whose family and friends will be getting murdered. Eli Roth directing, kind of weird. He's usually on for horror movies. He directed Knock Knock, the horror starring Keanu Reeves, that got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. He directed The Green Inferno, which was all about cannibals, and I don't think that reviewed particularly well either. That's another 33%. My prediction for this is going to get a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's not going to do well enough because people don't care about Death Wish, so there will not be a Death Wish 2. Also releasing on the 2nd of March is Gnome Alone. I don't really know anything about this film. I did find it super weird that there are 2 movies which are gnome puns coming out in March. Gnome puns, not a particularly successful genre of movie, I wouldn't think. The cast includes the Yellow Power Ranger from the recent Power Rangers reboot, one half of Drake and Josh, Demi Lovato's sister, and Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy. Oh, and this guy, who I immediately recognised when I looked him up. Turns out I knew him from Shark Boy and Lava Girl, so honestly, the joke's on me here. The guy who's directing it also directed The Nut Job, which received 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is also going to do badly. It'll get like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's going to lose the battle of the gnome movies. Also worth noting, there is already a movie called Gnome Alone. It came out in 2015, and it was a horror movie. When Zoe inherits the magical protection of a bewitched gnome, she quickly realises that he isn't your garden variety gnome when he begins eliminating her enemies in extravagant displays of revenge. What a classic. Coming out on the 9th of March, we have A Wrinkle in Time, which is a live-action Disney adaptation of a novel. It's not really my kind of thing, but they've been pushing it quite a bit. I've seen a few trailers. It's got an impressive cast and impressive director, Ava DuVernay, who also directed Selma, which was very well received, and it got a bunch of Golden Globes. This isn't going to be quite so serious because it's a kids movie. Selma got 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. The last live-action Disney film, Beauty and the Beast, got 71%. I predict this will get 82%. It'll be well received by kids, and children who see it now will be super nostalgic for it when they're older. And there'll be another reboot in like 20 years. On the 16th of March, we get Tomb Raider. The Angelina Jolie movies were bad, but they were bad in a way that was fun and was really silly. But this is based on the 2013 reboot of the game series, which was going for a more serious tone, so it's not going to have the same goofiness that the Jolie movies had. It's not going to be fun, it's just going to be not so good. Adding to this, the fact that when I looked it up, this is going to be part of a video game cinematic universe, along with the Hitman movie. Hitman Agent 47 came out a few years ago, which was just awful. And there's a Just Cause movie coming out. Well, a Just Cause movie planned, starring Jason Momoa, directed by the guy who directed San Andreas. And because the Tomb Raider movie is meant to be part of this cinematic universe, I hate it 10 times more than I originally did before I knew that fact. The first Jolie Tomb Raider movie got 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, the second got 25%, that Hitman movie from a few years ago got 8%. But the guy directing this Tomb Raider movie is a Norwegian director who directed The Wave a few years ago, which reviewed very well, got 80%, so it's a bit of a tricky one. I'm going to predict 35%. It won't be completely awful, but no one's going to be interested in a cinematic universe with these characters. Coming out on the 23rd of March is Pacific Rim Uprising. Now, I really loved the first Pacific Rim movie. It was a big silly B-movie, and it really embraced the stupid logic that the only way to fight giant monsters was to make your own giant humanoid robot to punch it with. This one does not have Guillermo del Toro directing anymore, and I am worried about the new director, Stephen S. DeKnight, who has a history in directing TV shows rather than movies. From some interviews I've seen with him, he seems quite interested in making this a big action movie in a new cinematic universe, PacificRim cinematic universe. Doesn't seem interested in keeping that same charm that the first film had. I'm gonna choose to remain hopeful about it, but the trailers left me a bit iffy. The first Pacific Rim film, 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. I predict this one get around 48%. It'll make less money than the last one, and maybe that'll take a knock to their plans to go down the cinematic universe route. I mean, the less we have of those, the better. Look what happened to the Dark Universe. Releasing on the same day is another movie I'm quite interested in. It's Isle of Dogs, the new Wes Anderson film. It's a stop-motion movie, which Wes Anderson really used to his advantage in Fantastic Mr. Fox. There's a really impressive cast, as always, some regulars and some not so regular, and there's like an interesting style going on that trailer. Plus, it's full of dogs. I mean, who's not into that? His last movie, Grand Budapest Hotel, did really well. Got a bunch of Oscar noms, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fantastic Mr. Fox, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a Best Animated Feature nomination. I predict this one is going to get 92%. It's going to be up there with the best animated films of the year. It's going to get a nomination for the Oscar, and I think it'll either be this or Incredibles 2 that wins it. Oh, and I'm going to love it. Sherlock Gnomes. It's the second gnome pun movie of the month, and it is the weirdest combination of ideas on this entire list that I've put together. Romeo and Juliet was a 2011 animated film, presumably arising from a combination of the fact that gnome rhymes with Rome, and someone at Touchstone Pictures doesn't know when to stop. When that movie did quite well, and they got to make a sequel, they must have dug through Shakespeare's remaining work and found none of the ones we can fit gnome puns in are well known enough. We need another piece of classic literature. So this is Sherlock Gnomes. That's got nothing to do with Shakespeare. It's going to be a mess. There's too much going on. Johnny Depp is in it. It's going to get 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the gnome cinematic universe is going to end here. I'm just going to chuck out that I went through all the Shakespeare plays trying to think of gnome puns, and the best I've got is The Two Gentlemen of Vernoma and Antinomy and Cleopatra. You don't want to see these movies. I think we dodged a bullet when they didn't put in another Shakespeare gnome pun. And the last film I'm going to go over here, releasing at the end of March on the 30th, is Ready Player One. I am going to preface this one with saying that I did actually quite like the book. It's not going to translate into the movie in the same form as the novel, and the trailer is a big mess. I've seen a lot of stuff online about it, and people are hating the movie. They seem to be forgetting this is a Spielberg movie, and that man is incapable of making a truly bad film. He is 71 years old, so he's going to be really heavy-handed with the pop culture references, which is what we saw in the trailer, but he can still make a good film, so don't worry about that too much. His other recent adaptations aimed at kids were BFG, 2 years ago I think, which came out, it did alright, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Tintin, a few years ago, which was also 75%. I'm gonna guess Ready Player One's gonna get 66% on Rotten Tomatoes. It'll be serviceable, and it'll definitely be better than people are making it out to be. That's all the predictions. Come back in 3 months, and you can tell me how wrong I was, because I'm sure at least a couple of these I'm way off on. Here is a screen where all of the predictions are. Print screen this and tweet it at me in like 3 months when the scores have come out, and you see how wrong I am.